everyone. Happy Wednesday from me and Fenris over here, apparently, saying hi. Yeah, welcome to Archetype, sponsored by Dell. I'm your host, Ashley, as usual. Hope everyone's having a good midday week here as we start a new character. So we'll just jump on in. I feel so lonely today because Chris is not with me, so I'm just be chatting here by myself. But don't worry, my dogs will keep me comfortable and bug me a lot. Isn't that right? Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see her down there, but so for this month we've done the druid, we did the paladin, and I thought it'd be fun to do the bard. I think that's something that I kind of discussed last week. And so I was kind of thinking about it with the bard. And again, I like starting with an idea that feels kind of contradicting to itself to start with, which is fun, which would be, I've never seen like an orc bard. I'm sure there is one. I'm probably not the first one to think of that idea, but I think that'd be a fun starting point because it's also a race that we haven't covered. And I thought, this like big buff like orc guy playing like a flute or something could be kind of fun. Or maybe he's like, playing his lute to animals or something. So I kind of like the idea of this big hulking character, but being like kind of like that classic, gentle giant. So probably just start off with some like face sketches actually today. We'll see how warmed up I am for that. But if you're in the chat, like always, say hi. And we'll just be doodling. But I kind of want to get, because this character is so much like a, friendly giant, so to speak, kind of vibe. I don't want him to look threatening. I want him to be very big, but I don't want him to look like he's really scary or anything like that. I think I want to go with something that feels a little more lighthearted. We can start kind of trying to play with shapes and proportions of our character and whatnot as we get in here. Of course, like I usually like to start with something that, especially if I haven't drawn a lot today or whatever it is I'm doing, I'll try to start somewhere that is simple and try to start with kind of like what's a generic orc character, and then how can we take that and kind of start to amplify onto that. He's got like funny little hair or something. Maybe his ears are kind of goofy. They're more maybe like goblin than they are orc. And of course, recommendations from chat are always welcome. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of got a strong looking orc character who ultimately just likes to sing or play something. And then we can kind of start playing with some more shapes. Maybe he's got like a bigger brow. And like maybe he's got like really sunken in eyes. Big brow stuff is always kind of fun. And usually with orcs, you know, you can get kind of like a very square. It looks a little too like manly jaw on that one. Let me see. It's kind of trying to go for like a sadder. And then trying to figure out where his teeth come from. I always kind of make this habit too of probably sketching too fast, but today I'm going to try to slow it down a bit. I think I've been overthinking a lot of my drawing work, and so I'm going to take this streaming opportunity to just kind of chillax. I don't think I'm going to try to find like a, you know, super finalized design today. I think I really just want to like explore character more than anything else, and not try to find, again, I feel like the last few times, not that I'm rushing or anything like that, but I think I focus a lot on just trying to get like a final drawing done for the stream, when in reality I think just trying to explore something else this stream would be more fun. I'm already having more fun. So I mean, the reason why I like to draw to begin with is try to capture, you know, an idea or a character in general. So trying to pull out this like gentle giant on the pages is very fun. I think a lot of it's just, again, trying to capture an idea or a design that I like for this guy. The square head's fun with like the really big brow. But we can keep kind of exploring some stuff. You know, we can try, now that I tried square, we can try something that's maybe a bit more oval. I think already I can tell this one's going to be too goofy for my taste, but we can try it. Maybe he's got some horns. And some dopey ears. Yeah, I like the idea of a character who, like, I don't know if you guys know about Ferdinand the Bull and that kind of story, but, you know, the idea of, like, this really big, huge bull who looks really scary and intimidating, but in reality he just wants to sit on top of the hill and, you know, smell flowers. I think I like that idea. Like, maybe where he's from, he looks super menacing. I think that's why this like round one isn't gonna sell for me, but I'll do it anyway, just because, you know, it's good to get out ideas. And I think the style that I'm doing it in is also a little maybe too cartoony for what I want to do today, but yeah, but maybe where he's from, he's a character that looks, you know, or maybe he's meant to be like the next line of command or something. You know, there's always the classic, like, the dad's the really intense one. Kind of like, what is it, How to Train Your Dragon, you know? Where there's Hiccup, who's not menacing, he's not really a Viking, right? But his dad is like the, you know, lord of all Vikings in his town and whatnot. So, I like this design, but not for what we're going for. I think it's fun. But yeah, maybe it's one of those things where, you know, you want to try to capture a face that maybe in the right moments he can be really scary looking, but also look really friendly. I think Beast is a great design for that from Disney, where he can look really intense and scary, but he also has this, once you get to know him, he has this really like sweet face, you know, and very innocent face. So I think that's always like super fun. I like the squareness, and I think that works a lot. I have some reference that I'm looking at a little bit, but you know, when I was thinking about like bards and stuff, for like a fantasy world, I liked the pelt because it reminds me of like the orc vibe that I wanted to go for, where maybe he's more rural, so maybe he'll have pelts and things, and his costume will look a little opposite from, you know, what he actually likes to do, because he's forced to go out and fight when he doesn't really want to. He just wants to play the lute or do whatever. So I like these like I said lard bard. I meant saying bar, but these leather stitchings and stuff I think is cool with the fur, because we can still kind of capture, but maybe he looks a little bit cleaner than his like counterpart characters. And so then I was also looking up gestures, because they're kind of silly and they usually sing and do all sorts of things. So I thought maybe his costume could replicate the silhouette of a jester, but that's where I'm getting the big ears, right? So if I want to play into, he's not wearing a jester hat, but his ears are maybe kind of jester like, so he still can look scary, but still has that musical kind of background. And we could even do something where, or they could be maybe his horns, or maybe we could do a bit of both. Usually there's 3, so it could be interesting if maybe they just have like one big horn, you know, that kind of acts like hair. We can kind of play with it. But also this makeup's really cool too, right? So maybe when the other people mask on, you know, paint for fighting, he does the same, but he doesn't know it, but the audience or the artist knows that he's actually dressing up his face almost like a jester would. So his face paint for war would be almost more like comical, which could be kind of interesting. So those are kind of the things that I was thinking about when I started trying to draw this character. So yeah, I'll just keep exploring some faces until I find something. I had like a lot of ideas going into it. Well, I actually didn't have a lot of ideas going to it, and then I started thinking down that jester line. I was like, ooh, now I have some, you know, better ideas. But I'm going to go ahead and play with some horns. Maybe just some really tiny ones at first. And we can kind of expand on how much bigger they get, or, you know. Cosum, oh, hello. Says you're the best, love your streams. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. I do it for you guys. So if you're not here, kind of just sitting, drawing, and talking out loud. So I appreciate when people are here. And the big ears can be fun because he can change, you know, facial. He can express a lot of emotion and performance through really big ears. And I don't want him to look, I want him to feel intelligent. So there's a couple things to think about with that. You know, it's really easy to, if you give a character like a really tiny brain case and make their head really big, these characters tend to look kind of dumber, just because, again, like, I think we relate brain size with it somehow. I don't know, it's something that's like very ingrained to us. And then another thing too is like really low ears on characters. So, like, I know it gets really ridiculous at a certain point. Now he just looks like he's looking up, but the lower the ears, like if the ears are lower than the line here, or maybe the nose line by like a decent amount, usually that kind of looks a bit more like dopey. You know, whereas if you have ears that are more up and perked, now it looks like a bear, but they're more aware, right? Whereas if you have like lower ears, it kind of gives this idea that he doesn't really use them. It's really common, like, design shape. So it's really important to not just, you know, as we play with this character's head, ear placement would be really important. So if we're making like a square, you know, and his eyes are here, his ears being here, right, versus his ears being here is a totally different design. You know, and the nose shape and stuff. Also, the distance of the eyes is another thing that we can play with too. You know, the wider the eyes tends to look a little dumber, or maybe not always dumber, but a little more innocent. Or like really, really close, you know, might give that same effect, but there's like a happy medium where maybe a halfway point doesn't look as horrible. I mean, we know all the classic like chicken eyes are like out here, you know, and they're like really stupid looking. I'm gonna leave that there because I love it. So again, playing with just the proportions within the shape that you have is really important. So it's all about like that shape hierarchy. Really big noses, you know, you might look a little dumber, like the bigger the nose you give them too. I wanted to give a pretty big nose. But you can think about the opposite of that, right? Like, you know, villains tend to be very square and they have like really squinty eyes and they have really pointy noses and they're like, hoo-hoo, and they have like those pointy ears and they're like, oh, I'm so smart, right? So we're kind of going for the opposite of like that really aggressive feeling. Raid is asking, what of the men's? I'm not sure what you mean by that, so if you could clarify, that'd be great, and I can try to answer your question if that's a question. Also, the smaller the eyes, the bigger the face will feel, right? So if we give him like really big eyes, that'll make his face not feel so big. So to make something feel more giant, usually you can give it smaller eyes, and that'll help a lot as well. I know orcs, their thing is the tusks, right? So I'm just wondering if there's a way we can be cool or more creative about it than just giving them like big tusky teeth, because it's so impractical. Because it also forces them to have like a really big, like you have this like big underbite, which isn't terrible. You know, it is part of the, I guess, the orc trope, but I'm wondering if there's something that we can do. Oh, thank you. My dog brought in a slipper for me. That's very nice of you. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm sold on the big teeth yet. Raid's asking, how am I and what am I doing? Hello. I'm doing pretty good here on a Wednesday, hanging out with you guys. We are making a D&D character. So we started out with an idea that he's gonna be a bard. But I like the idea of a bard being like a really tough looking, not they say tough looking, when he gets angry he'll look tough, kind of like intense orc character, because I thought that'd be kind of like fun to play on. So that's what we're trying to. So I'm just coming up with some character face shapes for right now to see if I can find something fun. Would he have like a long mustache, just like a bird would? That'd be interesting. I don't think that works for this character's face shape, but we could try it on a different one. This is feeling kind of more like generic orc right now. Not really capturing a whole lot of character. At least not yet. But yeah, if you're new to the stream or not, what I usually do in the start of the month is I will sketch and just hang out and draw a new character and come up with a new character idea. And then we'll take that drawing an idea and I'll sculpt it for the next 3 months and we'll make something in 3D. So that's usually the process. I don't mind the horns. I was trying to play with the horn idea. I think it could be kind of fun. But maybe we could also, whoops, I'm gonna grab, do not know why my glass is yellow. Whoops. Pasted something else there. I'm gonna copy this drawing real quick. And I'm gonna add some horns onto them because I want to just play with this shape, but also add some, see if some horns could be interesting. So it's always good, like if there's a drawing that you like or something, you can always take that one drawing. I mean, it's really easy when you're, you know, drawing digitally to take that drawing and repeat it, and then maybe change some proportions of it and whatnot. Like instead, maybe we can change how big his tusks are. Right? So we can just start kind of playing with some shapes. Now this is more if I'm going to fall really into this design. I do like it, but I don't want to get too married to anything too soon. So it's important to kind of be like, okay, maybe I explored that one enough, and maybe we can kind of move on into another facial expression. So I'll hide the other ones. I'll move this one over here. Flip him. I feel like he's looking so lonely when he looks off into the page. And I'll draw some more. So maybe we can play with something where they are maybe more beast-like almost. And maybe not as big of... Maybe beast-like in just a different way. Kind of like, I'm kind of thinking like Beauty and the Beast, how he's not just like Green Man, you know? Or like an orc is usually just like a dude with teeth, but he's human proportioned. So maybe there's something more to that we can add. Got more of maybe like a animalistic type nose or something. I'm not sure why I'm making him angry now. I think I'm falling into like, oh, I want him to look like a beast, but I'm gonna make him happy. I want to capture his happy feeling before I capture the angry feeling. Making something look angry is actually a lot easier than making something look nice and friendly. So, oh, maybe we can give him kind of like a. Maybe they're more like boars, right? So boars have kind of like a piggish nose. Maybe he's singing in this one. And again, maybe he doesn't have like the big husk-like teeth, but maybe he has just like very sharp, scary-looking teeth. But once you get to know him, those teeth aren't so scary. Maybe we can play with, on this one, his horns being the gesture shape. Again, I think it's important to explore all these options. While I'm not like falling for this one a whole lot, I think it's still important to try to explore the different variations that you could have on a character. Because if you never know and you never put it down on the page, you know, you won't know if it's going to be successful or not. So, you know, in my head going, oh, is this going to be, it's going to look more like a cow, you know, almost. Which isn't bad. Or maybe we are pulling some more of that like cow or like bull inspiration into some more of this stuff. Which if I want to play it, because like I'm trying to think of playing with like the profile of him. So instead of him having just like a very human profile, right? Trying to get him to feel like a more animalistic profile could be interesting. So if that's what I'm aiming for, then maybe I'll just try to do like a side view that sort of makes sense with that character. And I do like this droopy hair. I think that helps with the friendliness of it. If I give him like the really crazy, you know, woo, crazy hair, doesn't work as well. So maybe for this character, you'd almost give him some sort of haircut that feels like very, almost like a muskox maybe, where it's like really fluffy and friendly, right? So I like the idea of giving him hair that's, you know, a contradiction to what maybe his other work. Work buddies are doing. Maybe it is kind of more like a boar's mane or something. Again, I'm pulling inspiration from like cow, bull, boar, to try to get maybe a design that feels a little less just like your stereotypical orc. Right? Like that could be kind of fun. It's a very different kind of orc than maybe what we're used to seeing. I'm just drawing over it. So I was just drawing over that too. Like if I like this profile, like I said, we can see the difference between this versus something that is like a more human face would be basically taking this and maybe his nose would be just as big. Then we're kind of doing something more like that. So I think it is important to say, you know, are we going to be playing... I think the animalistic one's pretty fun. Like, I'm kind of liking this one a little more. And then maybe we can keep those big proportions for his body and stuff too. Just so that way, you know, if he's in a world where there's humans, he really stands out from not being just like a giant man that's green. Oh, Kaisedo, hello. How are you? Welcome. Glad you could make it. Oops, that's not the right word. Put that one down there. I don't like it as much. And merge all these. Now I can just see if I want to play with some horns. Because again, I'm taking inspiration from those jesters that have sometimes 3 or they have 2 on each side. 2 on each side makes it easier because it's, you know, it's his ears. But maybe he's got, you know, horns like that. I think it would be kind of weird if there was like a horn in the middle. That might be a little too on the nose if we do something like that. It also looks just kind of goofy. Or I wanted to be a little more serious than that. So, oh, Kaisedo says, so far looking good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me go ahead and try to do this guy in like a more expressive. Now that I have the profile, it's a little easier to block out, you know, his shape in 3 dimensions. So now that I have a better idea, I can kind of start to block something out. Now, if you look at boar tusks, I think they come from the top of the... Let me look it up real quick. If I look up boar tusks, I think they come from, on the skull, they come up from the zygomatic arch, so maybe that, I think that will be a lot better looking, actually. Rather than the usual where they have like these big bottom teeth, I think I can give him more upper teeth. That's another thing you can do too, even though it's a, you know, a caricature or a cartoonish looking orc, you can still break down like the skull shape and everything too, if you wanted to. I think maybe big eyebrows, like really big bushy eyebrows. I'm playing into that. Again, I like I still like this, where it's like the sunken eye. You know, so I think playing with that is still nice, making sure that his eye feels like it's really back there. So giving him a very sunken eye kind of feeling will maybe almost like Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of vibe a little bit. Except those very like big sad eyebrows. Or they can turn really sad, or they can be really happy. And then I think I like this like little droopy tufts of hair. I'm starting to like that. Kind of supposed to give him a very... Again, we're kind of playing off of like what, you know, Beast from Beauty and the Beast would look like or something. Just adding more of that Beast to it, I think, is kind of fun. And not making him like a super stereotypical orc or goblin, I think would be fun. Also, sculpting it will be interesting. But if you guys prefer one or the other, definitely let me know. Oh god, I'm doing it again. Photoshop has changed how it zooms in and out for no reason, so it's not being very nice to me. I meant to cut that away, but I'll just delete it now. So now that I have these guys, I'll take them. I'm just kind of rearranging things. So I want to be able to see my character, but I'm gonna make some room to try to start sculpting, not sculpting, drawing a bit of the body. And see what we can come up with here. Also, Photoshop is freaking on me. Anytime I transform and it goes past the canvas, it stays there. I don't know why. It's very irritating. So I'm just gonna try some different body types and stuff and see what we can get. The long neck is kind of fun. You know, makes him again feel more animalistic. You can play with really how wide of a character you can get. Then maybe he could have like some trilateral like hoof legs or something. I'm not really sure. If we're going with like boar, a bork, boar orc. See, I get it? Yeah, see what I did there. Then you know that might be more interesting. I'm not really sure yet. Just trying to play with something first. I mean, maybe later because he's a kind of bard. Maybe he'd get shoes or something that kind of more like that jester vibe or something. But we shall see. I think I definitely want like a pelt to hang down the same way, almost like a jester does. I think that could be kind of fun. Also trying to think of shapes that could potentially be maybe more friendly looking to than his counterparts. So maybe he's really big, but maybe it's softer. I'll just play with also saying just like normal legs as well. Which maybe does have like really big feet. Maybe we can play with really big feet. I guess torso's a little too long. Just trying to explore and find some I don't know, I'm trying to find something that I think again, I just want it to be slightly different. I don't know if I want him to be hunched over though. I could try it. Because again, I try to figure out why is it that I like this drawing, and then why do I like, you know, this kind of drawing, and what is it about the character that I can try to bring to the pose and to his Beast is kind of hunched over, huh? So maybe we can play with that idea. And so is Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think that kind of plays into, even if they're big, they try to like meet to your level almost. But when they stand, then they can get like really, really menacing. So maybe that's something we can play with. Just as pose reference, I won't show it, but I'm just gonna look up these from Disney, just so I can just get an idea. It's always helpful to, if you have something in mind, and be like, yeah, how did they do that? Or like, that's what you're trying to capture, you know? You know, what makes Beast such an interesting character, right? So I think kind of being reminded, because you'll think you know what he looks like, and then you look him up and you're like, oh, I don't remember what he looks like at all. So it's important to kind of like keep that stuff in mind. I think maybe something a little more hunched could work. I feel like, you know, this is something that, you know, at first it may seem like I'm being very picky, but I think it's really about trying to capture the character right now that you're looking for. Because the moment you get that, then the rest of this kind of becomes very easy. This is the time where I think you can spend the most. Should I get a little tail? What do boars have? Boars have like a little nubbin tail. Just trying to figure out like your character's anatomy and trying to figure out like how would he be posed, you know, how would he normally stand or sit or walk, or, you know, what's his approach to things. I think it's all important to figure out kind of now, because the more and more you actually sketch, you know, just really quickly ideas of your character, when it comes to actually finalizing and getting that character down, it's going to be a lot easier. It's almost like you're practicing your own character's, you know, anatomy and physiology. And so when you need to draw him again, or in this case, sculpt him again, it'll become ever so slightly easier and easier. I'm still trying to think of what maybe he's reaching out for. Like a little bird. Right, and immediately that gave so much story. And I think that's what I'm talking about when I'm trying to like figure out this pose, is the moment you add those elements of story and stuff to it, like, can you tell that this character is, you know, nice? Can you tell that this character is aggressive? Can you tell they're, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to explain and tell that story to. I think it's these kind of moments that help you figure out that character a lot. And then I'm going to try to... I have some medieval instruments that... if you guys have an idea of what could be cool for him to play, you can always leave a comment in the chats, and I love looking at suggestions. But the more and more you start drawing your character like this, the more you get kind of like a not a sleight of hand, but kind of get like a quicker... you get quicker and quicker at drawing your own character, the more and more you can figure that character out. So maybe he's like sitting on a... I like the idea of him sitting on like a, I don't know, like a log or something. And he's like playing... maybe he'll be playing the lute. I'll try having him play a lute. I think I have some reference of people playing lute somewhere. It's always helpful to look up poses of people playing. I look up like bard lute. Go see like a pose. It's helpful just to get an idea of like hand position and stuff if you're not used to... if you're not used to drawing something. It's always, you know, have that reference up for you to be able to kind of figure out what you need from it. You know, this is a good point too, is we can't make his hands too insanely big, otherwise it's just going to be very impractical to try to get him to do anything at all in this case, right? If he was like a normal barbarian, I would say, yeah, let's go for it, and we can, you know, give him giant hands or whatever. But in this case, he needs to be playing something very lightly. It's also good, this is one thing that I learned too, was, so if he's playing a lute, I know where the hands need to be, and then from there you can figure out how to attach the hands to like a forearm. So if I know that his hand needs to be here to kind of... on lute players, well, I was looking at my reference and one's like very low and then one's up very high, but we'll keep it down here. So from there, then you can kind of figure out where the forearm needs to be and how to bend it to... I wonder if we can have it where his... it's kind of resting his foot on his leg. So we've got a little foot here. And bring its ears. I'm gonna bring its ears down a bit more. And I'm really just gonna draw in those big, thick eyebrows that I want more than anything else. And there's this like mane that goes back. And this is just, again, these are just nice studies to do to get to know your character's anatomy and see how you can pose them into different situations. I feel like for the stream, I haven't done this that much with most characters, which is why I want to do it with this guy. Because one, I do it a lot. This is just something as an artist that I like to do as a good practice for your character art. You can practice putting them in different poses and situations and making sure that you feel like you can confidently draw that pose. They have loots have a lot of little strings on them. It just helps figure out your character more. And then maybe on this one, maybe I can start to figure out, you know, he's got his little fur pad that kind of looks like a jester costume. All the other orcs make fun of him. I don't think you'd see his elbow. I think his elbow is going to be very tucked. I'm trying to think of when I play the guitar. You know, my elbow is very tucked to my side, so I don't think you would actually see it. You know, this is kind of like a top-down view. You're kind of looking at him from, you know, above. And that's another thing too. It's, you know, practice different camera angles and things like that. You know, it's one thing to figure out your character on the side profile, but then say, you know, take a look at all those shapes and, you know, if his head's very square and he's got a very round rib cage and maybe he's got the square pelvis, but you know how to draw, you know, a sphere in a box. So then being like, oh, there's his, you know, there's his rib cage. And then there's where his pelvis would be, right? If we're looking at the plane and the grid, you can easily plot your character out into, you know, any sort of given space that you need to, if you break him down into very, very simple shapes. So it's really important. This is where, you know, drawing him like this over and over again, this is really what I'm trying to deconstruct. When I'm coming up with a character to pose into multiple different poses, is you're looking at, you know, what are their most basic forms and shapes, and how can I break that down so he can be drawn over and over again with ease. I feel like consistency in that is always something that all artists are like struggling with, but I definitely know that as a beginning artist, usually drawing your characters consistently over and over again is always one of the more challenging aspects of character design, especially if you're doing something for like 2D animation or anything like that. Cool. So now that I have that kind of figured out, I'm going to hide these guys, and this was just an example, so goodbye. We'll bring these guys up here again. I like apparently drawing on the right side, so I always bring them back over and then flip my characters over. I don't like them looking off the page for some reason. I'll bring this guy down here. So they're just up there as reference, and then I'm going to try to kind of come up with a final costume and all that stuff. And so when you're doing character design for that, I wouldn't suggest doing angles like, whoops. I'm sure, I guess I'll save it. Probably not a bad idea. But it's probably not a good idea to do, you know, a very super, super dynamic perspective like this, you know, or looking very top down, because you can't really see what his belt look would look like, or, you know, his pants or something. Like, there's a lot of things that are overlapping and blocking. So then when it comes to doing the actual final sketch or design, that's when you want to kind of have a more straightforward on view. which would be more helpful. We can always change maybe the way his loot looks, but I don't think I want his, I don't want him to play, well, we'll figure it out. I'll block it out first. I'm wondering if I want the loot or whatever he's playing kind of in the way or not, you know, because we want to make sure that the design is readable. Trying to think of, you know, what kind of pose do I want? Because maybe he's like swaying. That might work. And I still want him to be kind of hunched over, so I can grab that and maybe, there we go. Yeah. No! Control D. Go back. Something's happening. Okay. There we go. The thing got stuck. So I'm trying to think of like the gesture that he would have. Maybe he's like turning and looking, but he's like playing to somebody, you know, lower than him. Again, just figuring out that gesture first. Will be good. Maybe he sticks his neck out a little more. This is one thing that Glenn Keane used to always say, who's you know, a Disney artist and animator, was that your arms should feel like they go from one side to the other. So if you have your, you know, hands here and here, they should feel like they almost flow. I think he talks about that when he's drawing like Tarzan and stuff. So he's talking about like the flow of your character. Maybe he's got one leg up on something. That would be very Bard-like, wouldn't it? And then we can have his foot go down. I still haven't decided whether, I think I gave him like just normal, kind of like weird creature feet. His feet could look kind of gnarly. And then again, trying to figure out like where his neck is and trying to figure out all that anatomy of his neck stretching. And then that gesture, we can have his tail, maybe continue that gesture. Maybe he's playing to like a, you know, a little kid or something. Like my kid versus my character. Zoom in on his face here and try to clean this up. So I think the heavier those brows and the deeper those sockets are in there, it'll feel really, it'll feel pretty gentle. Trying to get his brow to feel right. I don't know if he should be that happy singing. I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe he's like pursing his lips or something. Obviously the expression, I'm going to take a decent amount of time trying to figure out exactly how I want that expression to come across. Especially singing. Singing's an interesting one to try to figure out. Shoulder sore. Oh man. Oh, go Ashley, go. My shoulder's killing me right now. Alright. I think that's pretty good. And then always flipping your canvas is always a good idea. Oh, that's not my canvas button. Where'd my brush go? It's the fourth button. So what I can do now is I like to go into the liquify tool, and if there's anything that seems a little off or something, like I think his neck could be brought up a little bit, and maybe his shoulder can come in a little bit more. So he feels more like he's turning towards. So they can be like really subtle little changes, or they can be really big changes. You know, maybe his knee can get a little higher or something like that. JD Smith saying, is he going to eat that kid? Say yes. I don't want him to eat the kid. He's supposed to be nice. Maybe he'll eat the kid. Oh. Maybe one of his friends will eat the kid after he finds out that he's singing to him, and then he has to. There we go. And maybe I can try to pull that lip down more. Try to really stretch his face more. And then I can see the preview. See how I'm just kind of pushing. It looks at first like not a very big motion, but I think it helps ever so slightly more just to push and pull his torso around a little bit more. So I like to. And now I can go over the drawing more and make sure that I'm kind of finalizing those choices. All right. His nose be maybe a little bigger. I'm not quite happy with the nose yet because he feels very bullish. I mean, maybe that is where I should give him some horns. So he feels a bit more like a, maybe more orcish, I'm not sure. Still trying to figure out how I want his face. Because I don't want to give him just like human nose. I think that might be a little too weird. I'll figure it out once I start doing some line work. But let's go ahead and start putting some clothes on him. So maybe he's got, like I said, I kind of liked the idea of him having a big old fur pelt kind of thing that's got little tassels like a jester would. I think that could be fun. And then if he's playing, maybe I'll have his arm down. So just trying to figure out the position of his hand, where his hand would be. Bunching up a lot of his pants or something. I feel like I draw the same pants every time. And then maybe he's got... This is what I mean by the loot getting in the way, is regardless of his pose. Like, if you didn't have a loot, we'd see a lot more of his torso, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Maybe his loot could be kind of cool looking. We have some very weird looking boots as reference, but maybe he's got like could look kind of like a scary loot. Because, you know, all he has access to are maybe like sharp, scary things. Trying to get that hand in there. So I think his, you know, his costume is gonna look, you know, slightly more like your typical kind of like orc costume, but that's supposed to be kind of the point, is he's supposed to look kind of rough and scary, but then he's playing a lute. Or he could be playing the drums or flute. Flute could be kind of fun too. And then I think I'll give him, you know, he can have some kind of torn up cloth and things, and maybe he's got some more fur kind of on his pants here. I mean, he could have no shirt. He's a barbarian. And maybe he has some, like, glass and stuff. Let me see what, some jester-like things. I mean, eventually we can give him some more, like, fur and stuff around his, midsection and stuff. And then I think I'm going to change the direction of that tusk. Come out at us a little bit more. Maybe a little longer. I think something like that works. Maybe he's got some sort of like arm scaled gauntlet or something. There's a little bit of fur on it too. I wonder if you could make it almost like a, would make it somehow look like there's like stretched skin or something over it. Again, kind of the idea that the lute's kind of scary looking, but I think his face, I think it just goes too thin. And it might be a little too long. not sure yet. I feel like he just starts to look too much like a goat man and not an orc. What do you guys think? I don't know. Because I'm kind of starting to lean more towards maybe giving him back the like a more human face, but I'm not really sure yet. I mean, I can always duplicate it, hide this, and erase it and draw one and see what it looks like. Just there's something about the face that I'm not quite. It just doesn't feel like he turned more into like a creature than he did like an orc. Yeah, kind of getting boar vibes. I mean, that's what I was going for sure. But I think I might have gone, might be a little too heavy-handed in the boar vibe, and not enough in the orc vibe. I could agree. Why are you doing this, Photoshop? Don't be like this. I mean, I think it'll also help once we turn him green. He's just gonna be straight up green like an orc is, so just got in 5 minutes ago. No worries, no worries. That's exactly what we were trying to combat here. So you're right on point. If you're saying you're getting boar vibes, that was the point, so I guess that was successful, right? Or is it the horns? Yeah. Okay. Photoshop yelling at me all the time. I don't know, with the horns it might have been too much. I do think that face is actually helping more. What do you guys think? Do you like the more just human nose? I think this is looking too much like an animal and not enough like an orc. Mordecai's saying, I think ears and leg and ankles are making him look more like a boar. Looks cool though. Thank you. Yeah, I mean definitely the trilateral will make him look more like a creature. So I mean we can try to pace it back a little bit. I definitely was trying to go for something that was not just humanoid. I didn't want it to feel just super human. I think I'm liking the more human nose, and I don't mind keeping the trilateral. I wanted to not feel just like we're trying to avoid your stereotypical orc, you know? That's my biggest thing. But I think going without, I think not having a human enough face. I mean, he could be like a fawn orc. So instead of do like a mixture, he could have like little clothes or something. Fawn, orc, bard. We're doing a lot of things here. But see, even at this final pose, we're still changing stuff up. Because there's certain things that like you like and then don't like, and you're like, Because I still like, I like this pose and this character as a concept, but that character face could easily turn into having like a nose. Kind of like that. Yeah. So we'd have just like a bigger nose. And then maybe we can give them the really, bring it back to orc. Maybe we can't give them the really big teeth. Again, I was trying to avoid certain things, but again, we might. Oh, puppies in, puppies out. Here they come. Yeah. Wait. Might do something like that. Alright. I'll stick with it. We can always change it later. Let's do some line work now. That sweet, sweet line work. I don't know, do you guys like line work? Maybe not. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. This is kind of where I feel like I can flesh out. Like, because my sketch is only just to get something down, and then I can start to get that expression better once I figure out that line work more. I won't lie to you. I lined it. Nice. Doesn't sound sketchy to me. Ha ha ha. Get it, guys? Look, if you make puns in the chat, be my best friend. Big fan of the puns. Again, that's super sunken eye. Make like an ooh face. That tusk is really going to be more like there. The tusks are tricky because it always is going to make the character's mouth a lot bigger. Because it has to work around, you know, that tooth there. Hello. Hello, dog. All of those big sad eyes, my goodness. I am not going to be able to... I'll try to figure out that mouth, man. Because I know you would see his teeth. I might stick with what I had before, but still. But just, I'm going to be fighting the teeth on it, but that's okay. Maybe this tooth would be smaller on this side. Mordecai's saying, speaking of D&D, I watched The Legend of Vox Machina last week. Very cool show. That show was pretty fun. I do like that show. It's a good, for me, like, I like putting it on the background because I love I'm always a big fan of anything that's really like 2D animation, and I think the animation, the characters are really awesome. They're done by, well, one of them is done by a guy named Phil Barbosa. I don't think it's Barbados or something like the like the pirate, but I always forget how to pronounce his last name. But he's really good artist. So I love representing, or not representing, but supporting that show for that reason. Because yeah, the character designs are really fun. Maybe he's got like tiny ones. Maybe that'll help him feel more orcish and less. Again, still playing. I actually don't mind. Yeah, as an artist, it's very inspirational. I totally agree. I really enjoy the character designs. I love that some of the animation in that show is great too. Really cool. Oh, my shoulder's killing you guys. I gotta warm that out more. Jeez. It's just staying in one position because I'm huddling over my Cintiq over here. Maybe it's hooked up by like a tooth. Yeah, I love how simple the Vox Machina designs are. They're so well designed, and yet they make them so simple, so that way they can be, you know, animated with ease. And I just think it's a really cool style. Because, you know, while this drawing might be cool, it would be very difficult to animate him probably. There's a lot of parts going on, but you can see I'm trying to simplify some stuff. That's what I usually like to do. Kind of like these tapering that way. Probably too zoomed in. Zoom out a bit. Don't zoom in too much to your work. Oh my goodness, my pressure tablet's freaking out on me now. I'll probably draw the loot on a separate layer here. Oh man, anytime I lift my tablet, or my pen, it's like, wow, it's freaking out on me. Oh, Mordecai's saying after Arcane, he's more into that style. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Arcane. Arcane's wonderful. Super inspiring stuff. That style is crazy, but, you know, it's also Riot, so Riot's always going to do Riot things, which means they're just going to be kind of badass. Vinsky, I think is how you're pronouncing that, is asking if I'm using a Wacom. I'm not. I'm using a Huion tablet. It's a screen tablet that I have in front of me. You can't tell it, the light's glaring up into my face. But it's not a Wacom. It's called Huion, Huion. Yeah. The Canvas Pro. Oh, you're using that too? Nice. Yeah, I really like it. I like it a lot, actually, because I get to get away from Wacom. Sorry, Wacom. I used you for years, but you never updated your drivers, so I don't know what to tell you. Artists gotta grow, artists gotta move on. Gotta let go. That fur's just in the way, isn't it? It's just right in the way of where that bend would be seen. JD Smith's also saying that the Huon's more cost effective. Yeah, I bought this one because I like 16, so I don't like the big 24. It's just too big for my desk. And so Huion was also, I think, priced the best out of I can't rotate it because I have something turned on. I'm about to switch from Photoshop 2 here in a second, I swear. Start just bad-mouthing all the programs on my stream. Oops. Don't do that, Ashley. Go. So I'm just laying down him, and then I'll put the loot. I can put the loot in later. But my pen tablet pressure, I'm not blaming the Helion tablet. I think it's Photoshop being funky. It almost always is Photoshop being funky. So I've started practicing in Clip Studio, but I'm still not very good at it, which is why I'll still use Photoshop. But I have been trying to practice Clip Studio because I think I want to make the transition for doing animation. I would like to practice more animation. So I think that would be a fun one. So again, I'm not drawing the loot. I'm drawing all of his clothes first, and then I'll draw the loot after the fact. Oh, Kaiseido's saying that he uses Clip Studio for drawing. Yeah, I just started. I really like the tools in it. There's some really cool tools. And then, yeah, I just think for animation, it's a lot stronger than Photoshop is. And it's cheaper than getting something like TV Paint. You know, TV Paint's like really expensive, and that's the more professional, grade. But to get my feet wet, Clip Studio's pretty inexpensive to try out. I think you can get it for I think they have 3-month free trial, and then they have it's like $2 a month really, or something, or like $12 a month maybe. It's pretty inexpensive as far as software goes. But yeah, I've just been running into it with the updates of Photoshop. I'll still use it for work because I have to, but I've just been running into a lot of weird update errors and stuff. The zooming alone is driving me crazy. I can't use my normal scrubbing zoom, and that's a death sentence for me in itself, so. See, when you zoom out, you get it done so much faster. That would take me forever if I was doing it the other way. You go in here and add some line weight. Yeah. Okay. And then I'll drop these both down so I can then add the loot. Oh, JD Smith is saying, tried Clip Studio Pro, personally hated it. There's some things about it that feel clunky to me because I'm new to using it, you know? But I think once I figure out how to use it for animation, I think I'll like it a lot. But we shall see. Here's me gonna be hating my imperfect circle for a loot. This is where I wish I was on Procreate. Procreate will spoil you. That's what I should do, actually. There's no way to do the Procreate thing. It makes me so sad. See if I can add a... Nope, nope. Just move what I have, please. Thank you. I'll change the depth of that down, and then I'm gonna try to place that in space a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but I mean, it could be if I want it to be, but I think the holes for loots are really small. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there's not really even a hole. There's like tiny holes. I might just draw the tiny hole by hand. Where's the option to rasterize this layer? There it is. And then I have my, there we go, down. So you make some of it perfect and some of it imperfect, and then it won't feel like you're trying to be... If you try to make everything too perfect, then everyone's gonna judge you on how perfect everything is. Whereas if you keep it loose, it'll help a little bit hide your imperfections. Add the little strings here. Cool. Now I can up the opacity of that, and I can hide that one. And see, now that I which one's my loot? There it is. Erase those strings on the inside. Kaiseido's asking, am I learning animation or do I already know how? But are you learning to use the software? I've played with 2D animation before. It was part of my classes at Gnomon and stuff. I wouldn't say I'm like really good at it or anything, but it's something that I always want to get better at because I feel like my drawing style that I enjoy the most and the media that I enjoy the most has always been 2D animation and stuff. So I've always just been a really big fan of that style and medium. So I just want to get better at it personally, for like personal projects or, you know, for anything like that. So I wouldn't say I know it super well. I mean, I can animate, but I wouldn't say it's anything amazing. I can animate, but yeah, nothing crazy. I'm just looking to get better at it. Hopefully all in good time, but I feel like I'm always so, as an artist, I don't know, I'm sure everybody feels this way, but you feel so torn between, you know, wanting to sculpt, wanting to draw, wanting to get better at painting, wanting to get better at animating, wanting to get better at, you know, I mean, for me, I'm in games, so I always want to get better at, you know, engines and stuff too. So it's just one of those things where you feel like you get pulled in 17 different directions and you're never sure which way to go or where to start. And that, I feel like, is me right now with trying to get ready to do any of those things. I'm going to raise his head a little bit just because it helps break silhouette more. I'm glad that I'm relating, because yes, it's a very relatable thing, I think, for most artists. And I think I have to remind myself that that's a, you know, it's a normal thing that we all go through, trying to figure out what it is that we want to do with our time. And our art careers and all those good things. Just adding some line weights now. And then I'll try to color him as fast as I can, because we are running out of time. Somehow this seemed to get, I don't think I was in all black when I was line weeding his arm. Oh man, my shoulder's so dead, you guys. It is killing me today. I'm trying, but woof. I gotta stop soon. I usually get up and take more breaks. I mean, I guess this is only a 2-hour draw session, but I do sit here most of the day working, so I think I just did not get up that much today, so. Which make sure you do. Get up, move around, walk your dogs, do things. Get that blood circulation pumping. It's important to be balanced, you know, not just stare at a computer screen all day long. Alright, I'm gonna do a little trick here. So what I like to do sometimes is, this is like from a traditional thing. It's just like a weird trick. Is you can go to blur and then do Gaussian blur. And you can blur your outline. And sometimes I like doing this because it feels, and you don't leave it this heavy, but it gives it like this kind of like, almost like if you've ever Xeroxed your old pen sketches, then this might give you that that feeling back. Sometimes I don't do it to every drawing. I like to do it to some drawings to make them pop like a little bit more. It's also a really easy way to add, if you drew some stuff that's like too thin for line weights, this is a really easy way to add some more thickness to your line without actually adding thickness, like going back and adding all your thickness. So it's a cool little trick. I don't know if, I'm hoping you guys can tell the difference between not having it on and having it on. It's very, very subtle, and I usually turn down that opacity a lot. Like it's at like almost 20%, and it just adds a little bit of noise texture that I like usually. So great. I'm gonna go around pretty fast and just try to fill this in. Oh, I forgot to add the texture to his gauntlet. That's okay. You all knew it was there. You guys can remember. Use your creative brain imaginations to picture it. I'm also probably not going to keep his feet now that I'm looking at it, because I want him to be ogre-esque, orc-esque, and I think the feet aren't doing it. I kind of forgot, and then as I was talking, I was like blah blah and just kind of started drawing over it. Now I have hooves. Which I just don't think work for him. He's not fuzzy, so it wouldn't really make sense. This is one of those drawings too that I can tell is going to get a pretty decent upgrade once we're in 3D. I have a sneeze coming on. So I'm just gonna erase his feet real quick. Almost the same shape. There. Keep going. Alrighty. And now I can go ahead and adjust the color after the fact. I can give it a more, like a darker greenish. And then I can play with like hues on his face and stuff later. We can figure out what is where would that one coming from? There's a weird Photoshop line that I didn't see, got in the way of my ear. Okay. Onward. Mordecai's asked if I'm going to take it into 3D. Yes. So if you're new to Archetype, welcome and hello. But yeah, if you look back on the other Archetype videos that are hosted by yours truly, you'll see that the first week is always designing in 2D. And then I take that 2D design and I sculpt it out in 3D for the next 3 weeks. And the last week I pose it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. So if you want to see this guy come to life in 3D, join in next week on Wednesday from 7 to 9, and I will be here, and we'll be sculpting away and kind of like blocking this character in into ZBrush. So yeah, that's kind of the process if you've never been here to Archetype. Sorry I didn't mention that before, but yeah, it's a fun time. And we've been doing D&D characters, so. Oh, Emma said awesome, thank you. Thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate you guys finding me. I know a lot of people just like to sit and chill, and maybe you're working on your own stuff or you're drawing and you like watching other people draw as you work. I totally get it. But it's always really, really appreciated if you guys say hi in the chat. Just so that way I know I'm not talking to myself into the interwebs. I always really appreciate it. Okay, Sato says, you'll be surprised how it turns out in the end of the month. Yes. I surprise myself most of the time how it turns out. Sometimes I'm like, oh god, Ashley, why did you do this to yourself? And then we get to the end, and it's a lot of fun. I think, actually, I don't know if you guys have been here before. Shout out your favorite character. I'm actually kind of curious who's which one you guys enjoyed watching the most. I don't really get to know that info, so it'd be cool to let me know. Because my favorite one I think that I've made, I actually looked back on some of them, because sometimes I forget that I made them, and I had a lot of fun making that steampunk chipmunk knight. That one I think was, I still really like that design. That design was super fun. Even though it wasn't super fleshed, I mean it was kind of fleshed out in traditional, but it really came together in 3D. So I thought that one was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorites that I've done. The past one was really fun too. The corgi. I wish I could have sculpted the corgi more. I just didn't really get a lot of time because I was sculpting 2 characters instead of just 1 that time around. But yeah, I always like to know who's you guys' faves and liked. If you don't know, you can go check them out on YouTube or Twitch. They're all still there. You know, you don't have to catch me live. I appreciate it if you do because I have people to talk to. But yeah, you can go check those out, and you can tell me which ones you guys like. Jake Smith says, only familiar with the Corgi duo. Cool, cool. The Corgi was super fun. Having Chris on was really fun, just because it's nice to bounce ideas off of somebody. I feel like working in a vacuum is usually never super healthy for an artist. Like, I think it's always really helpful to get outside opinions and ideas, and that's kind of the point of Archetype, is to kind of sit around and think about ideas and fun stuff that we could do. So it's nice to have someone to bounce those ideas off of. So whenever you guys have ideas in the chat for something, you know, even for this character, if you're like, oh, instead of a lute, maybe he plays a flute or something, then yeah, I'm always down to hear it. Mordecai says, I'm a 3D artist myself, pretty sure it will change a lot. We will see how much it changes. I feel like it changes more in the sense, like, there's a lot to figure out, you know, when you're bringing it into 3D, because this is just one side of him. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you can cheat when you're in, not in a cheat as in like a bad way, but you know, you just have to focus on one silhouette, one side, one pose when you're drawing. And even when it's a animation, you still get to focus on just one frame at a time, whereas with 3D you have to be a bit more methodical about your shapes. You can't cheat as much because you have to see it from all those angles. Not sure which color I want the bracer. I know I wanted like metal plating and stuff on it. And we'll probably add a lot more, like, I don't know, belts and spikes and things. Maybe it's just a silver. It's just pretty. We'll go with basic bracer for now, since we're almost wrapping up here. Oh, the Joker Slayer favorite? Yeah, that was my first one. That was a lot of fun. The pose was really fun. Hopping off, have a good stream. Yeah, it's only 2 more minutes, but thank you. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Mordecai says it'll get a lot more personality. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think with the pose, and I always feel like figuring out like the face and stuff, you'll always get a little more out of your 3D if you let it. You know, some things turn into hot garbage because it's a lot of stuff to juggle. But it's too. I go a little cooler so it feels a little warmer. You go more towards, since his skin tone's so green, the more cool you go, the more you can start to shift it into like a reddish hue. And then once you get that hue, you can kind of make that transfer a little easier. Because this color is actually more of like a warm gray than it is a red, but you can't really tell because everything around it is very cool green. So just adding a little bit of like key color notes here, and then we're calling it done. Oh yeah, that's right. We did the Joker and then the Brute together. Yeah, that was a fun combo. Man, gotta get back to those fun combos. Make that pose. Cool. And there we have it. So a lot of today, again, was exploring tons of, faces and... Whoops. Don't move. Kind of had a slower start, trying to figure out like what kind of character I wanted to do. We kind of ended up going back to where, this character originally landed, except giving him like, bigger nose and bigger eyebrows and things like that. But I think his like gentleness will come out a lot in Uma Sculpt. And we can definitely figure out more of like his body proportions and more, assets and stuff to put on him and fun little props to like tell his story. But I think for now, this is a good place to end. And thank you guys for tuning in. I always appreciate it. If you want to see this guy in action in 3D, join me next week. Same time on Wednesdays, 7 to 9. So this is Archetype, sponsored by Dell, and I appreciate all you guys. And you guys have a lovely rest of your night, and I'll catch you next week. Bye.